Hi everybody, it's Dice. So in preparation for tonight's Lauren story, I thought I'd go through just the things that were asked, right? Will the app launch in 2024? Don't know, that's a great question. The mobile app is in a preview state and is available on the stores right now. There's a VR demo on SideQuest you can download right now. Have you settled on a live service fee? They have not. This has always been called stabling. We did a whole poll on it on Discord that it was like, I think it's called the Wyvern box, and the idea was what was going into it was going to be things like food, things like that, treats, maybe some toys, all digital, of course, nothing physical, for your dragon. What to expect in terms of incubation, temperatures, and what damage can be done by leaving it cold too long? That's a great question. So part of the draw, I'm assuming this is from a newer person. This could be an older person. I don't know. I don't have any information on who asked these questions, but what to expect in terms of incubation, temperatures, and what damage can be done leaving it cold too long. We don't really know. The idea is supposed to be that the lore has always been that Dragon Federation is just finding these eggs. It's the community's job to find this information out. This is supposed to be a big surprise and a reveal. If you don't like that, wait to incubate your egg till a later time. Incubation doesn't start until you enter your egg code in the mobile app, at which time it will start. Now, right now, everybody's very, very lucky. There is a very generous reset when the app launches, because there's more to it, right? Now, technically, the app is launched in a preview state. So there's a lot of, like, our community says the official launch. So if you want to wait, just wait until a community member can have that. But the plan was always that Dragon Federation was not going to provide a step-by-step guide. That this was supposed to be community figured out. However, you're in a testing phase. Why don't you do it yourself and find out? What does happen if you put your egg in cold for too long? I don't know. Try it. Find out. You're lucky enough that you can reset your egg at the end of this, because all eggs will be reset before this official launch, as the term is used. Genders are determined by temp. Yeah, for the mountain skulls. It's called temperature sex determination. Crocodiles and alligators use this. It's used in real life. Or was the question you wanted to know? So to go along with my previous answer, the idea is that information will not be provided prior to official launch. And if it is provided, it'll be from a community member. That's why we encourage everybody to be on Discord. Incubating multiple eggs at different temperatures. So the app is in a preview state. I think this has to do with what I've seen in Discord, where people have commented about how they can't change the temp from one egg to the next. If they increase the temp for one egg, it increases it for all. I don't know how that's going to work. It hasn't been determined or decided, and the app isn't in a finished state. So, great question. Fog timelines for receiving. So the email that had this survey actually did comment about how we don't talk about launch dates or product details, and I guess it should have specifically stated shipping, right? There have been several emails sent out, so I'm just going to hopefully assume this is someone who isn't subscribed. So yeah, prior to FanX, production was stopped on everything that wasn't an elder egg, as I understand it. And I know I've had to reach out to some people who are waiting on mountain skull eggs and mountain skull scales and let them know that it was going to be longer. Everybody was put into a queue once FanX ended based on when they purchased. And then the manufacturing team has been working on spitting those out as quick as possible. With that said, the current estimated timeline is about 30 days. There's been several emails. I did post this in Discord. If you opened a ticket, I did tell you this. I know it's frustrating to hear. I'm sorry there isn't a different answer. I'm not sure how this is a question. Okay, if different temperatures can be set for different eggs, and if it will be possible to put eggs in stasis and focus on specific eggs at a time. Okay. Different temperatures can be set for different eggs. I believe that is the intention in the mobile app. The mobile app is currently in a previous state, so it doesn't have that function because it needs to be coded and put in. I don't have a timeline for that. Again, that's just an assumption. I guess if there's anything different, Samson will say so, I hope. Or we'll find out at some point, right? So here's how I know how it currently works, right? You create an app, you create your account on the app. And then you're asked to input your Dragon ID. If you don't put your Dragon ID in, your egg doesn't start incubating, it doesn't start dealing with temperature concerns yet. So if you want to wait to incubate your egg, don't put it in the mobile app. That's one way to have it in stasis. I think specifically you're referring to how to pause your egg. And this is kind of where it gets into that whole struggle. So when I came on 2 years ago, it was my understanding that this was going to be a realistic pet simulation game, not a game. It was always stated to me it was an experience and not a game. Samson has always tried to use the word experience and not game. If my dog's pregnant, I can't just pause that until it's a convenient time. If I'm pregnant, I can't just pause it until it's a convenient time. There's a lot of talk about pausing, but realistically, there wouldn't be a way to pause it. So it's always been my understanding that the idea was, previous to FanX at least, the idea was you enter your egg into stasis and it has 90 days to hatch. Now you can boil your egg, is what I was told. But nobody said anything about what happens when you freeze it. So that's a great question. I'm going to assume stasis is freezing it again. So if you want to focus on a specific egg, just don't put the other egg codes in the mobile app after official launch. We know that the Mountain Skull has a 90-day incubation time frame. If you know you're going on vacation in those 90 days, just wait. Wait till you come back from vacation and then start incubating your egg. There's been talk about a vacation mode for over a year now. Over a year, guys. There's been talk about a vacation mode. How that looks, we don't know until it's in the app. Why do you guys prefer to call it an experience and not a game? Because the idea was always to move away from gamification of this experience instead of gamifying it. It was supposed to feel like like real life and realism and not a video game. If that will remain after FanX, that's a great question. I don't know what the feedback from FanX looks like. I know how the community, the newer members have felt regarding Dragon Death and regarding that this is not a video game, it's a experience. Yeah, the idea is a video game after 60 hours, you're done. This was meant to be a lifetime experience. What other game has that? Are we going to end up with something that has a story, or is it more towards the Ark Survival Evolved-esque sandbox where a storyline is pieced together or added later, if at all? That's a great question. I love Ark Survival Evolved. I was acquaintances with one of the creators, so that was pretty neat. Are we going to end up... So it's my understanding that there is... I guess it depends on what you mean as a story. Do you mean quests inside the game? I don't think so. Not traditionally. There's not supposed to be human NPCs in the world, if that's what you're referring to. Again, not so much a video game. The idea is that if there are any NPCs, they should be dragons. So if you're referring to story, yes, there is a whole lore, like Dragon Seer is our mistress of lore. There is 5 years worth of lore that is currently contained in Samson's mind, and Dragon Seer has been teasing out and working on. There's lore in regards to each of the dragons, and their world and why they disappeared. I guess you would just need to provide more information on what you meant in regards to that question. I'm sorry I can't better answer it. Samson has always said that it's super important that the dragon companionship experience matters and all else comes later. So if a quest thing is a thing, it'll probably come later, if it's added at all. What are these other roles in the Do a Dragon Roll server about? So that's a great question. I'll leave it more towards Iron Man because he's the one who set up that part of the server. So Dragon Seer and Iron Man have been around far longer than I have. So if I joined in 2022 when I made my purchase, Dragon Seer's been here around since the Kickstarter in 2019. Iron Man came on sometime between those two dates, 2019 and 2022. And he's in charge of the roles, right? So I can give my explanation of what I understand, but I would say that he's really the one you should ask. Samson is, right, he's the creator of all of this, but again, the Discord community is ran by community members, not by Dragon Federation. And there's a reason why going to the Discord community is a great place to get your questions and answers, is because there's more people there as opposed to waiting on one person who has a family, who's working a job, who's trying to create this amazing experience. And then you have 3 or 4 moderators and admins, you know, that triples his workforce. And I use quotations there because they're not paid, but that means there's more availability versus if you just wait on Samson alone. So I will answer this question really quick. What are the other roles in the Do a Dragon Roll server about? So that's not a server, that's actually a channel. I understand you're probably not familiar with Discord or its semantics, whatever. So the Do a Dragon Roll channel, if you actually look at every single channel that we have, there's almost 100 channels. So part of the goal that we did when Dragon Seer, Iron Man, and Dice created this server was we wanted to have a way where people, when they came on, they would not be overwhelmed by how many channels they were. So picking certain roles will provide you different channels. Within that, we tried to stay within the lore and the understanding of what this experience was going to be. So specifically, they wanted me to mention the weaponsmith, the magician, the etc. type roles. All right. So the idea is that there's no humans in this experience other than us. That's why there's no player death or human death, right? Is because if you died in a video game, that'd be more like, what is that movie? Ready Player One? Is that the right one? Yeah. Where if you die in the video game, you die in real life. That's not what Dragon Federation is doing, right? So the lore is that if you come across a dragon who's violent, who, let's say it eats you, bites you right in half, it'd kill you, you just get ported out of the realm, and then you have to go back in, right? So because there's no human NPCs, the idea is that you as the player will pick what things you're interested in doing. So we've had people talk about, like, they just want to be an explorer, or they just want to be a healer. They just want to learn on how to heal dragons, right? We have people who've told us that they want to become a binding master, which is, as our understanding, it's the Dragon Realm's magic system. I don't know when the word binding came around, so I know that when Iron Man created the role, he just put magician, because magic system, magic user, magician makes the most sense. So I guess that technically would fit more with the binding master. As for weaponsmith, people have talked about, like, going out and going hunting or fishing or things like that. So we've had people say, oh, I want to come in and I want to create the weapons, or I want to come in and I want to create the armor. Very lightly, there was talk that in VR at some point we would get this integration with the VR that would allow the community members to create their own items and then sell them inside the experience, right? So, like, the idea has been that, I will just make a made-up example because I don't want to be a weaponsmith, but let's say Dice decides she wants to be a weaponsmith and she wants to open a stall in the market, in the bazaar, as we call it, and I want to sell weapons to other players, that I would be able to create weapons, not just collect them in the world and then resell them, but actually go in, use a 3D program and create a weapon that looks a certain way, or use a certain materials, and then port it back into the system and then sell it in the bazaar. That has been an idea that has been kicking around for the weaponsmith and for the armory, or armorer. When that will be implemented, we don't know. Could be in a few months. Could be in a year. Most of the information that you don't see floating around on Discord is there because we don't know what it looks like at the end, and it causes more questions and upset if I have it in there. I used to have whole huge sections in the FAQ about the lore, and then over time, as the lore has changed and evolved based on community feedback, based on literal limitations of being able to just create that, people get really upset about it. So I stopped including the lore in FAQ. But then we get a lot of people who get frustrated because they don't want to go. So there's actually, here's my plug. When I started seeing this be an issue, I created the FAQ, which is supposed to be like, as much as possible, this is in cement. And I will go in and I will edit it should it change, or should any information change. But if you want to go in and read lore, there's a section called Lore and Story Player Ideas. That's a place where you guys get to plug in your own thoughts and ideas that you have for this experience. That's a place where you can go, hey, I heard about this thing in a past YouTube live, or in the current YouTube live, or whatever, or I read about it and I want to know more. What are your guys' thoughts? And engage the community. The thing is we all have limited time. And so the whole plan for the Discord was to organize it in a way that would allow people to find what they wanted to find. So in regards to the role, if it's about the particular dragon you have, or it's about more like a job or class, kind of like a D&D class or like a job, that's just because there was always this idea that the experience is more about you and your dragon than anything else, right? Everything else is secondary, and secondary stuff may or may not come out, right? So if you're saying, hey, I want to become a dragon veterinarian, Well, so we just created a role for that where those people could talk about it, but people who aren't interested in being a dragon veterinarian don't have to talk about it. That was kind of that idea. What, if any, currency is there going to be in the world? Will we be able to buy and trade eggs on some sort of marketplace? Or will the world rely more on a bartering system based on the class you choose to pursue? That's a few questions there. They're all great questions. What, if any, currency is going to be in this world? So there has been talk of creating a secondary market. How or what that looks like, that hasn't been provided and probably won't be provided for a bit of time. This is asked about a lot. A lot of these questions are common questions, actually. There's reasons why there is or isn't information out there for them, right? So the ultimate plan, as I understood it, was that Dragon Federation just wants to create the dragon and the eggs. And everything after that is up to the community to build or make, right? So it was always my understanding that once your dragon becomes sexually mature and can breed, whenever that is, because that hasn't been provided to the community, but it is a ways off, that you can sell those baby dragons that for cash in a marketplace. There is a planned bazaar, a planned player marketplace. In the beginning, once it launches, it will probably be just like an AI marketplace, or not AI. It will probably be just like an in-game marketplace, like go into a seller in any other video game, right? You go up to the merchant, you sell your items, or you purchase new items. And then later, as the team can implement the technology and the other stuff they need, we'll be able to sell and trade with each other. Now, that question then leads into, well, if players are going to breed dragons, how do they get eggs? We don't know if physical eggs are going to be a requirement in the future. We don't know how that's going to look or work, or how those codes are going to be created. There is no information for them. The idea has always been that because it's a ways off, that's stuff that can be addressed at a later time. I'm a little bit tired, sorry. It was my understanding that Dragon Federation didn't want to have to monitor it too much. So if you choose to trade it on someone's goodwill and they mess you over, that might be on you. If you choose to trade something for a dollar amount, it's like going on Facebook Marketplace, right? There's great stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and there's not great stuff on Facebook Marketplace in my experience. So the idea has always been that you can buy and sell eggs, buy and trade eggs, barter, real cash, and then there's been talk of creating some form of in-game currency. What that in-game currency is or looks like, we don't know yet. I wouldn't say any of this is based on the class you choose to pursue, so much as just like in real life, you can't do everything. I cannot be a medical doctor, a veterinarian, and an attorney all at the same time in the amount of years I have left to live. Just can't. I'm none of those things currently. So, if, realistically, I was going to go into one of those, I would probably have to choose one. Now, that doesn't mean I couldn't, at a later time, try to multi-class, right, as D&D puts it, into something else. There isn't some, little tree yet that I know of that tells you what your class or ability looks like, because none of that's been created. Because right now, all we're worried about is incubating our eggs, which is fair. It's fair to think about the future. If you've got ideas, definitely please share it in the Lore and Story Player Ideas channel. We would love that. Currently, if you're looking to try and trade your egg, I have heard of members wanting it. There is technically an In Search Of or an ISO channel. It's actually a forum in Discord. Where you can post that kind of stuff. We were hoping to wait until it was closer to launch. I've seen people talk about it in general. We have a member who has got a few of, I think they've got 2 or 3 of the same common egg, and they're wanting to barter and trade for, or not barter, they were wanting to sell that egg, and that's been brought up. So I guess if you want to try and barter with them, you could. That's between you and them. But it's not something that Dragon Federation ever planned on having to police. The idea was that the community would, be a bunch of adults. It is a fairly expensive product, which should hopefully keep out some of the really young ones, right? Or the trolls, you would hope. That really addresses the questions. Here we are at 26 minutes talking about those things. To be fair, Samson is a lot more eloquent than I am. For those of you who are new, Lauren's Story is a bi-weekly call with the creator of Dragon Federation, with Samson. And he set aside an hour. Now, Samson is a human being who has limited time, just like everybody else. He has a family that and several children he needs to take care of. He has work, his own mental and physical health that he needs to take care of. Plus, managing Dragon Federation and getting those products shipped to you and doing all the other things. So, I know it's frustrating when he can't make it every week, but, or every other week, but we're all human. We're all doing the best we can, right? And sometimes we fall. Sometimes we need a break. Sometimes we need a vacation. Sometimes stuff just happens. Emergencies happen. There's been a lot of talk of people being very concerned about what happens in an emergency. I can't speak for Samson. I will say that it's my understanding that Dragon Federation has said that dragons don't just die of neglect. That was my understanding. Now, if that changes or if I was misinformed, that is both completely possible. But you kind of get what you put in out of this. If you're not going to put anything in, you're not going to get anything out. It's kind of like a kid. Samson has said that repeatedly. Your dragon is like a child. If you want your child to be a basketball star, you are not going to feed them junk food and ignore them. You're going to encourage them to go out and exercise. You're going to feed them the best food they can get. If you want a well-rounded, well-cared-for dragon, you're going to have to log in and care for it. Now, yes, emergencies happen. I have a special needs child who spends a lot of time in the hospital. I'm familiar with emergencies. That is why it has always been said that you will be able to feed your dragon on your phone. Well, what if I don't have cell service? You're not going to have cell service for more than 2 weeks? What if I'm put in a coma? What if you have a car crash and die tomorrow? You cannot plan for everything, but you can cause yourself a lot of worry and sick over something you don't need to worry about right now. And I know that sounds harsh, and I'm sorry. This isn't some super competitive, big deal right now thing, guys. If I know that I need 90 days to incubate an egg, and I'm going on vacation in 2 weeks, I'm probably not going to start the incubation for my egg. This project isn't just going to launch with nothing. It's not going to force everybody's eggs to immediately start incubating. In order to start the incubation process, you must enter your dragon ID into it. Sorry, my child's in the background not being good. There's a lot to be seen. And all valid points, very valid for, members bringing up, what about like the hurricanes or the tornadoes or earthquakes or other natural disasters? What about being put in a coma? Those are all good points. I live with an epileptic. I know what it's like to lose control of your life on a regular basis. But I also know that over time, you start planning for those things. And Dragon Federation can't plan for or fix every single thing. I think, there's been talk about the stabling thing is going to be a thing. Yeah, there's going to be a subscription service. They've got to pay for their employees, don't they? They've got to pay for that continued customer support that you guys are going to want when things don't go right. They're going to have to pay for those servers, which are going to cost them money every day. So yeah, there will be paid options. Samson has always promised that there will be unpaid options, but the paid options are probably going to give you conveniences you may want for a while or permanently. How much that looks, we don't know. Samson has said multiple times he does not want to gouge the community. He doesn't want to gouge the dragon riders. I don't know, because it's going to depend, if a certain amount of your charges are going to be taken for taxes, and a certain amount is going to have to go to, what is it? Let's use Steam, for example. If you're not familiar with Steam is a marketplace you can go on, you can buy video games and play. They get like a 30% cut of all sales on Steam. So if I made a video game tomorrow and I put it online for $10, they get $3 out of every $10. So as a business person, the smart thing is, no, it's going to cost $13. If my profit margin says that I must have $10 to make a profit, then I'm going to have to include the other fees on top of that. And that's part of why we don't, Dragon Federation can't tell you how much things are going to cost right now. They don't know what the market looks like next year. They don't know what inflation's going to look like. They don't know if Epic's going to tell them it's going to cost this much, or if they go to Google and Google says it's going to cost this much. They don't know yet. But as a consumer, I'm very interested to know the answer. I've always understood it was going to be somewhere between $5 and $10. At least that's the amount I'm willing to pay, right? Now, I'm sure there's people who are not willing to pay anything, and that's why Samson has said repeatedly that you won't have to pay. But there will be conveniences that come with paying. Look, I don't like Netflix. Netflix goes up every year. I hate it just as much as the next guy. But there's certain shows. I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. And yes, I do pay for Jurassic Park. Yep. When Netflix comes out with a new season of Camp Cretaceous, my kid and I, we get it for that month and we binge watch it. And then the next month I don't pay for it. One of the things that had been talked about, hopefully this will ease some people's worries, is that Samson has talked about he wants to have a way where you can friend list certain members or family or real life friends, right? And those people will be able to go into your dragon barracks, for a lack of a better term, and feed your dragons on your behalf. They are looking into things like that. They haven't been implemented yet. They're not available yet, but also your eggs can't hatch yet. So I know some people are really new or haven't heard these things. You guys, I understand. That's why we have the questions not answered channel. That's why you can ask these questions in general chat, is so that hopefully we can get those questions answered. And the Lauren stories, they're put back on YouTube. You can go back and watch them at any time. You can say, I'm going to sit down and all day one day I'm just going to listen to Samson ramble on. There's that. Anyway, thanks for those of you who've had to listen to me be on my soapbox. I'm a little bit exhausted. I'm still recovering from the whole shebang of what's been going on in my life for the past couple weeks. I know I haven't commented or made a YouTube video for a lot longer than that. Part of it was because I don't have much of a following. There's like, 4 of you? And it can't be much fun to listen to me get on a soapbox and ramble. I guess that's what podcasts are, right? 2 guys mansplaining to each other. Anyway, hopefully that got a giggle out of someone. Toodles!